NIA has been hearing dozens of reports from its members with family members who have graduated pharmacy schools 6 months to a year ago and have sent in their resumes to hundreds of different pharmacies in the New York metropolitan area and have yet to even receive one job offer. Even experienced pharmacists are having major difficulties finding pharmacist jobs. The husband of one NIA member retired 5 years ago as a pharmacist in New Jersey, but has now decided to re-enter the workforce so that their family can accumulate enough gold and silver to survive hyperinflation. Unfortunately, he was forced to leave his family and move to a rural part of Alabama in order to receive a pharmacist job paying only $18 per hour. Law schools have also been deceiving the public with false and misleading statistics. During the past decade, an unprecedented number of Americans went to school to become lawyers because they thought if they became a lawyer, they would immediately become rich. Some law schools are advertising that 90% of graduates are employed within 1 year of graduating. The unfortunate reality is, law schools are deceiving their students with these statistics because most of their graduates who are employed within a year of graduating are not employed at law firms. They can be employed at Walmart or McDonald's, but the law schools will still consider them to be part of their 90% employed within a year. Law schools are handing out 43,000 law degrees each year, yet 15,000 attorney and legal staff jobs have disappeared since 2008. Many people wonder why 60% of the U.S. Senate and 37% of the U.S. House of Representatives are lawyers. Well, the reason is they go to Washington in order to pass as many new, harmful, and destructive laws and regulations as possible in order to provide enough work for all of their lawyer friends.
So I decided to go to law school. I went to Chapman University School of Law. I graduated in 2005 and passed the bar in 2005, July of that year. And overall, I did not have a good experience in law school. In fact, the first week going into law school, it was not at all what I expected. I thought that the law was to promote freedom and liberty and justice. And in fact, what I realized shortly after entering law school is what the law has become is an excuse for bureaucrats to regulate just about every aspect of our behavior.
All of the needless legislation that is passed each year in order to provide work for lawyers has the devastating unintended consequence of destroying what little is left of the free market. Small businesses are the backbone of the U.S. economy, but it is now nearly impossible for a small businessman with limited financial resources to build a large, successful corporation in any sector because their legal costs would eat up all of their capital needed for research and development. Lawyers do very little to add real value to society. In fact, most legal and financial related service jobs on Wall Street are made possible solely due to inflation. It is because of the Federal Reserve's 0% interest rates and trillions of dollars in bailouts that all of these jobs exist. But these jobs only exist because money is being stolen from middle-class goods-producing workers and being redistributed to non-producing workers on Wall Street.
A lot of people that I graduated with found law to be very similar to how I found it, and that is, it wasn't really about helping people or benefiting the community. It was really just a system whereby bureaucratic lawyers make money trying to interpret complex statutes that really serve no purpose. There is a law for just about everything. You want to marry somebody who you love, you have to get a license to do that. You want to develop the real property that you purchased, you have to go to the city and get permits and licenses to do that. You need permits and licenses to do just about everything that should be legal because you're not hurting anybody else. To start your own business, you need a business license, you need your taxpayer ID number, you need all kinds of things just to get up and running. And so all these restrictions and laws and statutes, a lot of them which are not even passed by Congress, they're simply passed by administrative bureaucracy.
75 years ago, agriculture made up 28% of the U.S. GDP. Today, the service sector makes up 76.9% of GDP, and agriculture makes up only 1.2%. The only way for a country to produce real wealth is by farmers growing food, miners mining for gold, silver, and other precious metals, drillers drilling for oil, natural gas, and other commodities, and manufacturers manufacturing real goods that can be exported to the rest of the world. Goldman Sachs has never created one dime of wealth for our country. Yet most politicians in Washington have been brainwashed into believing Wall Street jobs are necessary for the U.S. to have a strong, viable economy. Likewise, nearly all Americans who have gone to school during the past decade have gone to school for degrees in legal, financial, or other service sector jobs. Almost no Americans have gone to college to become farmers, gold miners, or oil drillers.
You can go to college and learn from somebody that doesn't have a farm, and they'll give you an ag business degree. You know, most of the people teaching college don't have a farm, don't know how to manage it, and don't want a farm. I say if you want to learn how to do something, try to study under the person that can do it the best that he can do. There are jobs everywhere. You have to create a job. You don't get a job, you make one.
Americans have taken food for granted for far too long because Americans have been able to buy food at artificially low prices, with the average American family spending only 10% of their income on food. However, on October 30th, 2009, NIA published an article predicting inflation would appear next in food and agriculture. NIA said, a worldwide shortage of farmers combined with food inventories falling to record lows is setting up the perfect storm for an explosion in agriculture prices. From the time NIA wrote this article until now, we have experienced the largest ever short-term increase in agricultural commodity prices. Corn has risen by 75%, wheat by 65%. Soybeans have risen 51%, sugar 45%, orange juice has risen by 58%, coffee has risen 71%, and cotton has risen 124%. Because very few Americans went to school to become a farmer, and everybody needs to eat, agricultural commodity prices will continue to skyrocket, and farmers are going to get wealthy in the years ahead, while lawyers and bankers will see a dramatic decline in their standard of living. The free market will adjust and see to it that lawyers, bankers, and other non-producing financial service workers see a 90% decline in their real incomes.
Everybody can't be a college graduate. Somebody's got to grow food. You know, everybody can't ride the wagon. Somebody's got to pull it. Somebody's got to be taking some risks. Somebody's got to be thinking. Somebody's got to have sweat.
The only thing that has been supporting the U.S. service sector economy for so long is the U.S. dollar's status as the world's reserve currency and the world's willingness to hoard trillions of dollars in U.S. dollar reserves in order to trade oil and other valuable commodities. The U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency because it was backed by gold and the U.S. had the world's leading manufacturing base. Today, the U.S. dollar is a fiat currency that is backed by nothing, and our manufacturing base has been rapidly deteriorating, with most of the products the world buys now made in China and other Asian countries. The Federal Reserve just announced that it will print another $600 billion, which will dilute the purchasing power of the U.S. Treasuries held by our creditor nations and cause them to soon abandon the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. The entire U.S. economy is a Ponzi scheme that is dependent on the rest of the world continuing to buy larger amounts of U.S. treasuries. Pretty soon, not only will the world stop buying our treasuries, but they will dump the treasuries they already own. All of our deficit spending will have to be paid for by outright money printing. Although the government and media would like you to believe the U.S. economy is going through a recovery, the truth is, the U.S. economy is on life support. It is impossible to have an artificial boom created by artificially low interest rates from the Federal Reserve without a major depression afterwards. The U.S. real estate bubble was the largest artificial boom in history. The panic of 2008 was the free market trying to correct the imbalances with a bust. But the Federal Reserve prevented a necessary depression from happening by taking trillions of dollars of worthless assets onto its balance sheet. None of the imbalances have been fixed, and the real depression is still to come. But unlike the depression of the 1930s, which saw falling prices, the upcoming depression will be a hyperinflationary Great Depression, with prices for food, energy, and everything else Americans need to live and survive soaring through the roof. All young Americans today should be entering the workforce as soon as possible in order to generate enough income so they can accumulate physical gold and silver. When the US dollar collapses, only those with gold and silver will be able to buy food and other goods needed to live and survive. Those with the most gold and silver will have the best chance of surviving the upcoming collapse of the US dollar.